What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out this episode of Raised A Geek. This week, we discuss Godzilla Minus One, now in theaters, the GTA 6 trailer finally launching, and we touch on our thoughts coming out of the Game Awards. So let's get into it. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with my buddy, Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? Everything is okay as usual.
Love
Just
it.
enjoying the weekend.
Love
Enjoying
it.
the weekend after a little night of some Call of Duty with you and our buddy. A little back to those late Call of Duty nights like we used to have in the COVID era.
Yep.
But yeah, man, we had a little fun with that. I'm just chilling, man. Ready to talk some Godzilla, some gaming. Yeah, man, having a little day. Made my way to the comic book store today. Always nice to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as frequent as it used to be, but because I used to live much closer to my comic store, so I would go like every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get like, my 3 or 4 books, but now it's like I sometimes have a month in between going, and like when they see me come in, they're just like, "Hi, Don," and they reach in and pull out this giant stack. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "How much is that thing? $100, $80?"
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's the same amount of money I would be spending weekly, but just like
Yeah.
when you do it all at once, it's like, why do I read so many comic books? Why do I love these so much?
Yeah. When you see them all at in one time, it's one thing when you're just a couple every week, but then when you see
Yeah.
the whole pile and you're like, I have a problem.
Right. And I have nowhere to keep all these in my house, and yet I keep bringing them in.
Yeah.
And
I have
just
piles.
yeah. Uh it was funny, like sometime over the weekend I don't know if I talked about this before, but like on the show, I know I've talked about it with you. I saw CM Punk at my comic book store one time
Yeah.
because like that was like his local store he would go to when he lived in Chicago. I think he still does, whatever, but who knows how often he goes and does that stuff. But like I saw him in there. There was like a video on TikTok. CM Punk is all people are talking about in the wrestling world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Rightly so. He's still like, making headlines just by being there.
Right.
Uh, so there was like a TikTok video going around where he was doing a signing at my store, which I remember because it was like a few years back when he was like he wrote a comic book or something, but
Yeah.
he was also signing wrestling stuff. And it was a video of like Cora Jade, who is she like a NXT wrestler, I think. I don't really
Yeah, I
watch
think so.
NXT.
I know the name.
Okay, so this is like from a decade ago when before she was in the business, but she was at that signing, and like she went up to meet him and she's like crying and like, I'm just such a big fan. And her dad was like, you've really inspired her. And people were like, this is a crazy video because now she's in the industry and like their coworkers, and this is
Yeah.
her as a kid liking him. But it was in my store, so I see
Mm.
like the guy I always deal with, like the owner of the store, like standing next to him in this TikTok
Yeah.
that was been like viewed, and I think WWE reposted or something like at my store. And like I wanted to mention it to him today. I was gonna be like, hey man, I saw you on this crazy TikTok, but there were like way too many people in there today. It was very busy.
Yeah.
It was just
Saturdays are hard to have a
yeah,
combo.
yeah. It was just funny though.
That is cool.
Uh yeah. Picked up a couple new books, couple new things. Yeah, just fun time.
Did you get Batman and Santa teaming up to take on Krampus? You get that book,
Wait,
Silent Night with a K? Huh?
I saw it, but I didn't buy it. Batman and who? Oh, Batman and Santa. I thought you said Sandman. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But Santa?
Santa to take down Krampus.
Oh my god, that sounds. You got it. You picked it up.
Yeah, my comic book store suggested it, and I was like, whatever. It's a holiday one shot, whatever. And then I looked at it, and it's like a 4-part or something. I'm like, crap.
Oh yeah. Now you're in it. Now you got to
Now
see
I'm
what
in
happens
it.
to
Yeah,
Santa
so
Claus.
I know. So I don't know if it's a weekly thing or I don't know. I haven't looked that hard into it outside of just knowing I have it outside of that.
Very
But
cool.
but yes, I got a bunch of add-ons onto mine this week. So
Yeah, man. It's holiday season. Check out Batman and Santa Claus. What a team up.
against Krampus, which would have been perfect for last week's episode where we talked about Krampus.
We did. Check it out if you haven't.
But this week we went back to the theaters. When was the last time you went to the theaters?
Oh man, I don't know. I honestly probably would venture a guess. I'd say maybe Mutant Mayhem, the Turtles. And that was already a few months ago.
Yeah, that was like July,
Yeah, so summer.
summer.
So yeah, it's been a minute, been a little minute.
But obviously, Godzilla Minus One was the talk of the last
Hmm.
week. Came out last weekend.
Yes.
and it's been everywhere.
Yes, it has been. And the main reason I went to see it, I mean I was interested even before, but like we even had a little segment in our Krampus episode where you were had already seen it. And so
Yeah.
you were talking about it and how much you liked it. And what really put me over the edge to go see it was like all the little chatter that there was that like this is leaving theaters December 7th,
Right.
which when we're recording this is December 9th. So it was like getting ready to leave. And so I went and saw it, I think on the 5th, which is like the Tuesday, because it was going to leave Thursday.
Yeah.
But now, like with all the success it's had and being like, one of the highest grossing foreign films ever in America, and it's making a ton of money and hit number one at the box office and beat out Hunger Games and all this kind of stuff. So of course it's still in theaters and they've extended the run probably, for
Couple more weeks.
much longer than they anticipated. But yeah, that was kind of what put me over there. Just like that fear of missing out. Like I can't not, if it's gonna leave theaters, I gotta be part of it. So
Yep.
yeah, man, I went and saw it.
That exact reason is why I went and saw it a second time,
Uh-huh.
because I was like, oh my God, it's going to go. And my theater, I tried on Sunday when I went to do the IMAX, but they weren't showing it at the IMAX theater. But then when I looked on Monday, they were, and they had like 4 IMAX showings. And I was like, shit, am I going to go see this movie again to go see it on IMAX? And I 100% did.
So to be clear, you've seen it twice now.
I have seen it twice in the past week.
Okay.
Regular theater and IMAX. Been a while
Okay.
since I've been to an IMAX movie.
Sure.
I was deaf when I left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ears were all ringing.
Yeah. I usually don't do IMAX because I don't like their seats. There's like too many seats and they're too close together. But
no,
personal preference.
Mine got remodeled, so it's all decked out with like leather chairs, and they're not recliners, but they are comfortable, like nice chairs with the little tables and stuff. So didn't mind. There was just, I was clumped in the middle with a bunch of people, and the people in front of me weren't the most attentive to things and would plop down in their chair and would like hit my knees. I'm like, Jesus.
At least they weren't looking at their phones. That's one of the worst.
Yeah.
Like in this my theater experience this time, I had a guy next to me. It was like him and his looked like either wife or girlfriend and like a young child, which I'll get into that. But like he kept looking at his phone next to me and like I could just catch it out of the corner of my eye. It's just distracting. It's like he wasn't even like on it for a long periods of time, but like every 10-15 minutes or so he would pull it out and just like start texting or like look at something. I'm like, dude, like you're distracting me.
Right.
But
that light's bright.
It's the price you pay for going to the movie theater, dealing with other people. That's why I tend not to do it. But here we are. I did it this time.
You did it for Godzilla Minus One, a foreign flick, which, like Don mentioned, is breaking all kinds of records. I think it's the #1 Japanese language film in U.S. history to make as much money as it's made. Like Don was just saying as well, it beat the Hunger Games. It's climbing the charts. I think they said that Monday after that first weekend, it was like made the most money on a Monday or something. They were finding records all over the place for this thing to beat. So definitely the hype was there. It seemed like a lot of people went and saw, the few people who went and saw it over the weekend went to the water cooler on Monday and was like, holy shit, Godzilla. And a bunch of people started going. So
I think it's kind of benefiting from a little bit of like the Barbie Oppenheimer effect of the word of mouth of it. I think that's definitely been part of the success here is like once that movie hits that, like people are talking about it and posting about it. And again, the fear of missing out, I think that's kind of what has been driving some of this.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of people really like it and are saying they really like it. So good for Godzilla, man. It's a IP. Not a lot of IPs get a lot of love in this way. People like a lot of original stuff, and sequels are just like a slog sometimes, but like not, I guess not in this case for most people. So cool.
But it's funny because then you put it up against like Godzilla versus Kong, which nobody went to see, like nobody went to see. And even as I talked about last week, that new trailer for the new Godzilla Kong movie comes out in April. And that trailer I watched right after this, and it was so jarring to watch Godzilla and King Kong like buddy cop running next to each other after watching Godzilla minus one.
Like a Godzilla Kong who runs at full speed versus the Godzilla in this who like walks at 2 miles an hour.
Right.
Right.
Which started the giant debate of if Godzilla's speed in the new one just like ruins his sense of scale.
Sure.
What do you think?
Probably, yeah.
You have any opinion on that now that you've seen
No,
like
yeah.
slow Godzilla?
I've seen that discourse online a little bit and people complaining about that and saying, yeah, it would because he's supposed to be the size of a skyscraper and he's not supposed to run. He's not supposed to do this. I think it's just like the American take on it. We need everything big and fast and, running at you full speed and exploding and blowing up. So I guess it's just going to come down to your preference, how you prefer your Godzilla.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's jump into this Godzilla minus one review that we have. I got a little brief synopsis here for Godzilla minus one. It is set in post-war Japan, and it's at the lowest point after World War II, when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. So this one did not take place in present day. It definitely took place like I said, I mean, when it starts the movie, it's like 2 days before the end of World War II. So it was kind of right before the bombs dropped and all of that stuff. So and the whole movie takes place kind of in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yes, it's like post World War II Japan.
Mm-hmm. So. Yes. So we spent a lot of time in this film just like almost following the rebuild of Japan as just a country after everything that happened for World War II, just everyone being at war. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they didn't really go into it, but obviously they're, dropping atomic bombs on Japan. So that's going to be a shocking rebuild.
Well, you're more of a Godzilla guy than me. We've said that before.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke at length last time about you grew up on Godzilla. Like I can quote you saying, I'm a Godzilla guy. You got a Godzilla poster back there. Isn't he made basically like they didn't really get into it too much in this movie, which we can talk about, mm-hmm. or they maybe touch on it briefly, but what isn't like his origin atomic bomb like testing, US atomic bomb testing in Japan is what made him? Right. So
yeah, he was always kind of a metaphor for the nuclear bomb and just nuclear.
Right.
I can't think of the right word right now, but just that awareness. He was kind of always a meaning for that. So he's very tied, obviously, in with that moment post World War II. This is kind of the main period of time in which Godzilla exists and why he exists. Like the first one, the original Godzilla was in 1956. So this time point pretty much matches the original, but it's just obviously a different story.
So it's saying like the fallout from the nuclear bombs in Japan is what would have made Godzilla is his story. Got it. That's what I figured. I just was double checking.
And just the testing and stuff, because even in this one, they kind of showed a nuclear US test after World War II. And then that was when it was like Godzilla went from big to gigantic.
Okay.
So that's why in the opening scene of this film, I thought it was crazy that this movie started off with a bang. Like usually these types of movies start real slow, and usually it's like 45 minutes before you even see Godzilla. And this one was like, no, we're just going to throw this dude at you in the first 5.
Sure.
Which was kind of jarring. I was like, oh shit, we're just going.
Well, I can talk about the opening scene. Before we even get there, I want to hear from you first. You kind of gave me a little bit of a rundown. I know you liked it. You said it in our last episode. But just like as a whole, what do you think of this movie? What are your thoughts leaving it? I mean, you went and saw it twice. There's got to be a reason. So just like, what'd you think of Godzilla Minus One?
I loved Godzilla Minus One, man. It was just fun, but then also it had depth versus like a lot of Godzilla movies. The human story is weak or non-existent. You're just kind of there to see Godzilla. And this is almost one of the first times where I was like genuinely invested with the humans. Like I was okay with the story they had. It almost felt like two separate movies to an extent, um, because they were kind of had their drama and they had all of their trauma coming out of World War II. So I thought it was just, like I said, I was engaged in what they were doing. They had an interesting plan. I liked seeing Godzilla as a menace, just tearing shit up versus being like the hero that we need. Watched all the American ones they did with Ken Watanabe, just kind of being like, let them fight. Godzilla will save us, and he's like the hero. And I mean, there's obviously that there's a place in history for that Godzilla and, what he always kind of turns into. And that's what those movies are kind of about. Like the American ones are following all of those Godzilla movies where it's like Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla and Godzilla versus Space Gods, like they're all just kind of that battle of the beasts, where this one is kind of a throwback almost all the way to the beginning, where Godzilla is just a terror, and just watching him just rip through stuff. Plus like all of the old school throwbacks, the music, there's just so much stuff in there that just kind of I liked it. Didn't overstay its welcome. I cared about the humans. Godzilla looked cool. I like watching him swim around in the water. Like I said, I thought that most of the action sequences with Godzilla were unique and something different than what we normally get. We clearly got the one giant scene where he goes through and destroys the city and does all of that, but I liked all the stuff out at the water with him swimming and then throwing mines at him, and it just was different compared to what, like I said, what we've been getting with the most recent American run.
Right.
And it was a lot different. I can't say better because I haven't seen it since it was in theaters, but Shin Godzilla, the last Japanese one, all I remember about that movie was like googly-eyed Godzilla, where he was like had no legs. He was almost like a salamander, and then he like turned into big Godzilla. But I still remember him crawling down the street. He had like straight up googly eyes. They were like that, and I was like, that's gonna haunt me. And I could still see that image in my head. So, and there are a lot of things with that one. I want to watch it again, but I thought it just what they put out there. I just thought a lot of it worked for me. So now we put it out on Twitter already, where we were gonna have this discussion. So what do you think, man? Tell the world why you hated it.
I feel like more now than I ever have in my life, I feel like Elaine Bennis. And
yeah,
when the entire world loved The English Patient.
Yeah.
And she got dragged to it by her boss again after seeing it because she lied and said she didn't see it. And then she got fired because she said, I hated it.
Yeah.
Listen, I did not hate it. I'm not at that level where I hated this movie. But I cannot understand the universal love that it's getting, because to me, I don't know if this is just my taste or I'm crazy or I'm the only one. I was just kind of bored. I recognize the good things about it, but a lot of it I was just sitting there kind of like, man, I'm bored. Like the human story to me would just seemed kind of generic. And the performances were kind of like, one, I know it's a Japanese movie, so it's definitely different than the stuff we're used to seeing, but like overacted, I thought. And like, why is everyone always screaming at each other? Why does every interaction have to end with a loud scream fight? Why? And like the main actor, or the main character, which I'm not going to even try for his name because, I don't want to butcher it, but I didn't find anything likable or redeemable really about him. Like, we're supposed to care about him as a hero, but he's just kind of a whiner. He hasn't he hasn't done anything to me. He really is has been presented to me at the beginning of this film is a kamikaze pilot who didn't do his job and got
Hmm.
attacked by Godzilla, and now we're following his story. But why do I care what
Hmm.
what is happening to him? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they presented me with enough of a reason for me to care about him as this lead character that I should be sad about. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, uh, his connection with the female lead, I didn't feel was like earned or really there. Like she cared for him the whole movie, and he
Yeah.
kind of was like, "No, I can't." And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, at the end, when you think she's dead, oh yeah, by the way, spoilers, guys, for all this. If you haven't seen Godzilla minus one, sorry. Um, but
Everybody
yeah,
knows.
I know. But like, there's a point in the movie where you think she's dead, and then she's gone for the whole second half. Surprise, surprise, she's back at the end, and he's very like, but they want me to care. But I was like, I don't respect your relationship. Like, I didn't, like, you didn't care about her this entire time. Now all of a sudden, like, you're weeping at the bedside. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't know. So that's the human side of it. The Godzilla stuff, some of it confused me. Um, like, I feel like he popped out at the beginning, like you just said, the beginning of this movie, you see Godzilla for the first time very quick when he's
Yeah.
like small. He hasn't grown up to like the huge size
Yeah.
yet.
He's like the size
He's
of a
still
T-Rex.
right. He's still big, but he's not as big as Godzilla you're normally used to. I feel like the first time I'm glad they showed him to you early in the movie because you figure something like this you might have to wait, kind of like Jaws, where you're waiting till whatever point to like three-fourths of the movie till you finally see Jaws. So I appreciate seeing Godzilla early, but I feel like he just came with no fanfare. Like all of a sudden the camera's just there and boop, there's Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like he didn't come out of the water. There was no like there was no lead-in music. There was no nothing. All of a sudden just like, oh, there it is. And he moved with a fluidity in the beginning of this movie that I thought was interesting because he was kind of moving around fast and biting down on people and whatever. But
Yeah.
then later in the movie, like as when he's this huge skyscraper guy, he's walking at 1 mile an hour. Like, what is it? Can he move fast and like, or
He can move
can he
fast when
not?
he's small, and then when he's a skyscraper size, he can't move that fast. So
But
he can't keep moving at that size.
he can move a little bit though. Like, I get it. Him moving that slow is kind of a homage
Yeah.
to probably the old films because
Hmm.
that's how they always had him in the the old like you said 1950s movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just the difference of it was just too, I don't know. And I don't know, man, it's just something about that, whatever. And I don't know, the bottom line pretty much to me why I just don't see it is I just feel like there was too much. Godzilla wasn't in it enough. That's another
Hmm.
thing. For a movie being called Godzilla, maybe it's just because I didn't care about the human characters and they wanted to do a lot with them. That's
Yeah.
why I was kind of out of it. Like I'm just sitting there as they're having long scenes and him crying. Like maybe if I cared about him as a character, I would care about that scene, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't care about the little girl that was crying 5 times, and I didn't care about his girlfriend and his coworkers who were like had this fake camaraderie where they're all acting like friends, but they don't really seem like friends.
How do you not
Um,
like that crew? Like they just looked happy. They that one the captain guy, every time he smiled, I was just like the doc dude, that dude with this big hair, and he just had these plans and was doing stuff.
I mean, he
That dude was
looked cool.
awesome.
He looked cool, but they didn't say anything of substance to me that was like made me care about that group of friends. Um, and I know I'm sounding like a hater or whatever,
I mean, you don't care,
but
you don't care. That's just what it is. That's their
I,
job to do.
that's the thing that like we always talk about some of these like Marvel projects we haven't liked over the years and all these things is like they want you to care about their characters, but when you don't, it's hard to care about the movie.
Hmm.
Um, so I just didn't get I didn't get the journey of any of the humans.
Hmm.
And I feel like it focused too much on them and not enough on Godzilla. The Godzilla stuff when he was doing things was cool. I liked all that. Like the best scene in this movie to me is when they're on the boat and shooting at him as he's like floating along with just his head above the water and they're trying to shoot the ocean mines in his mouth and
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like very Jaws inspired, as even the director I think kind of said he was very inspired by Jaws for that.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the coolest scene in the movie, and
Yeah.
Godzilla knocking down buildings is always going to be cool, like, of course, but that's not enough for me to be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen, like everyone in the world seems to be doing.
Yeah.
Not to offend anybody, I mean, if you guys think it is, I get it, but to me it's just like a movie that was just like, all right, I saw it, it's okay, but I don't know.
No, I'm sure you're not alone. I can tell you that I'm definitely surprised in which like the hype train rolls sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not a movie that I expected that from. Like I've this movie's been on my radar for months. I saw a trailer for it over the summer, just been waiting for it to release, and I knew I was going to be there. That's just me. The fact that it blew up to the point where everybody was talking about it, everybody's showing stuff, it did raise the hype level, but I don't understand why, because it does still follow the same like Godzilla thing. Like you care about the humans or you don't care about the humans. And if you don't care about the humans, it makes the movie 10 times longer because you're just waiting for Godzilla to show up and he doesn't show up enough. I've seen plenty of Godzilla movies where that is how I feel, because you just sit down
Mm-hmm.
to watch them and you're just like, I don't care about any of this. This is boring. They're just talking about nonsense, and they're like, "How are we going to kill Godzilla?" And I'm like, "Just show me Godzilla." Um,
You're reading my mind right now for
yeah,
this film.
yeah. So I mean, I've sat through those films, so I can definitely like understand how you feel and how you got there. Because yeah, I didn't expect this, and I still don't fully know. I've seen the movie twice. I still don't fully know how it took on the life in which it did outside of just hype, social media
Yeah.
hype. Just like everybody who now you'll see all of the people who are hating on Oppenheimer and
Mm-hmm.
calling it boring and doing this, but everybody went and saw it and made it like the most, one of the highest grossing films of the year. But
Right.
now people are coming out. So I mean, give it a couple months and people will be like shitting on Godzilla Minus One, just because, like I said, it's not a perfect movie in any way. It's a Godzilla movie. And you kind of
Yeah.
know what that is going into it. You should, like we all know, we've all seen Godzilla movies one way or another, and that's what it is. It's, unapologetically a Godzilla movie, and an old school Godzilla movie at that, not like the new ones. Because, like I said, go back now after watching this and watch that new Godzilla X Kong
Right.
trailer
Two
and
totally
see.
different worlds. Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous. Like I said, I watched that trailer like literally in the truck on my phone when I was in the parking lot for the theater for this. Like it was seconds later.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, holy shit, this is completely different. So once again, it's kind of like you posted out there about two Batmans and two Godzillas.
Yeah.
That's what this is. But I
Mm-hmm.
can definitely understand that. Where I can give you that this human story was simple.
Okay.
Um, but I enjoyed I did feel for them. I enjoyed a lot of the this is war, like kind of the repercussions of war. That this dude was going through massive PTSD. Like I said, I thought it was really interesting that they followed a kamikaze pilot. Like this dude is a kamikaze pilot. His whole mission was to die, and he chickened
Sure.
out and basically ran away from his duty. And to see how that can affect, like that dude was traumatized by the fact that he saved his own life. Like that's crazy to think about. Like because I mean, if someone told us to do that, especially now, you'd be like, fuck you, like,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't even think about it. But this dude was seriously like having PTSD because he didn't kill himself, because he chickened out. And I thought that was an interesting like character to follow in that, and really see how he was still at war and couldn't allow himself to fall in love with that girl. He couldn't allow himself to do any of that stuff because he didn't think he deserved it. So I was kind of along for that ride, following that like trauma, war, ugly portraits of war type thing. And I thought it was a heavier story than a Godzilla human story normally is.
Okay. And all that works. All that
Yep.
works in if you are buying it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
100%, 100%.
that was only that was my thing, is like, I see what you're going for. You're going for a
Hmm.
story of like what you just described,
Yeah.
grief and PTSD and whatever, but I didn't feel it conveyed enough through those actors, I guess.
Hmm.
um like I said, I wasn't, if it all boils down to that mostly for me,
Hmm.
is that's what made it just a regular movie. And of course, like, I'm not a Godzilla guy. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm a casual Godzilla guy, I guess I'll say. I feel like this movie was more made for hardcore Godzilla fans who can appreciate the callbacks and appreciate the feel. And to me, it's just like a monster movie,
Yeah.
a big monster going around breaking stuff. And when there's not enough of that, then I'm just like, eh, ho
Oh no.
hum,
When
you know.
when he came ashore and started walking down the street and they played the old Godzilla music, don't don't don't, I got chills. So I mean, yes, it was made for hardcore.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
yes, they brought that music back to use when Godzilla was there, and just like I said, it just had this old school feel to it, which was definitely appreciated coming out of these most recent American Godzillas, what we've gotten. Like I said, the last Japanese Godzilla was like 2016, I want to say. So I
It
mean,
was, yeah.
we're pushing a while since we got one, and even that one was almost a satire. So it wasn't even really didn't even take itself seriously in what it was, because it was supposed to be a satire for the Japanese government, and they were trying to like poke fun at things. So that's a completely different type of movie. So it's just like the Japanese ones are they try to do a little bit more than just Godzilla, and not it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. And there's that foreign aspect of it too, where like I said, overacting.
Well,
Um,
that was my thing, was like I mentioned, everyone's screaming at each other. Like,
mhm.
why is everyone always like, even in him in the scene where it's supposed to be like a touching scene between them, and he's telling her about his PTSD for the first time, and she said something. He was like, "What would you say that?" I was like,
Yeah,
"Jeez." So like,
yeah.
what? I can't. Well, this is you guys are pulling me out of it, like, with just the way this is being conveyed. Um,
I've stopped watching animes because everyone's just screaming, and I was like, I can't. So
it's just,
yes,
maybe it's just a cultural thing that I don't fully like, aren't I'm not used to, but
well,
yeah,
I don't know. Like I said,
they
I don't really know. I mean, I've never met every Japanese person I met, even if
I
they were
just mean
speaking
like,
Japanese, never yelled at me.
no, I just mean like in
Yeah,
their movies and stuff. Like, maybe that's just a way that they like go heavy on that I'm just
yeah,
not used to. Um,
yeah. I
it's
want to
fun.
say that it is. Like I said, I've watched quite a bit of Japanese things over the years, and I mean I didn't even blink an eye at it. So now,
Well,
when he kept slamming his head on the table to beg for more time to find that
that
dude, I laughed at that.
was making me laugh. That
Yeah,
was
that made
making
me
me laugh.
laugh. He would slam his head down so hard to beg people. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was like,
I
I could
got
see where that's gonna make people laugh.
I got to mention this one thing that like bothered me now that you brought it up, that
Hmm.
whatever, the first time when Godzilla was walking through the town, when he finally was big, and that's when he started wrecking shit. And so
Yeah.
it's the scene with the lead girl, the lead woman, on the train, like going back and forth to work, and she gets caught in the carnage.
Yeah.
I had a visible eye roll. I know I did, to myself, when she's looking out the window and she looks out and she sees Godzilla, this huge freaking lizard, and she just learned about Godzilla for the first time from the dude,
Yeah.
and he told her what Godzilla is, and she's looking out and she sees it and she goes, "Is that Godzilla?" I was like, "Of course it is. What else would it be, you dummy? Like, is that Godzilla?" No, it's not. It's something else. It's a Christmas tree. I don't know. Like, what are we doing here?
Is that
I don't know. It's just something
Godzilla?
that's like lost in the translation. But why that line? Of course, it's Godzilla. Um,
I don't remember that. Like I remember her doing it, but I don't remember her saying that. Now I'm not now I could be able to unsee it. But
yeah. Um, do not get me wrong. There's things about this movie to like, that would be in a movie that I would like I said, the Godzilla stuff, definitely cool. um I like the CGI that was made to look like it wasn't CGI. I was kind of impressed with that of it,
yeah.
you know we all it's like well known and out there that this movie was operating on a budget of like $15 million or less.
Mm-hmm.
So what they were able to do with only that amount of money was impressive. Godzilla looked great because he didn't look like one the Godzilla from the freaking Matthew Broderick movie and all that shit. Not a googly eyed thing like you were just talking about from Shin Godzilla. Like it looked like Godzilla and like a classic Godzilla, not all CGI'd up. And even though it was CGI, it looked like if you squint your eyes, you could be like, is that CGI or are they doing some practical shit here with that thing
Yeah.
sometimes? So
I
that I
yeah.
did find very impressive.
They fooled me because there were definitely some of those parts where they were swimming where I could have swore it was practical, and then I was watching some stuff afterwards and they're like all digital, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, fuck, man. They just, the way that they did it and the way that he moved, they kind of just almost went for that, like you just said, that practical look, but it almost had that like claymation feel to it. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
they did the visual effects amazingly for having the small a budget they do. When, like I said, we're making fun of the Marvel movies with their $200 million budgets and everything looks like shit because
Right.
I don't know what it is, if it's just the style that they went for, but this one they went for like a, I don't know, almost a rubbery style, to
Mm-hmm.
where they made it in CGI but to look like it was practical instead of trying to make it look real. And it
Yes.
just worked so well. And I mean, dude, every time his little tail would start popping up to do his heat ray in this one was nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that
That
was
was
sick, man. When the blue and the spikes would pop, and you're just like, oh shit, about to
that
get,
was
it's about to
that
be
was cool.
real.
Here comes his finishing move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he
that
would
was
just destroy stuff. Yeah, the Godzilla stuff is, like I said, obviously, if the Godzilla stuff wasn't as good as it was, this movie wouldn't be anything special.
well, that's what makes me sad about it is just there wasn't enough of it for me. Like
Yeah.
wasn't enough Godzilla, man. I want Godzilla to take center stage in a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Um
He never
that's
does though.
I mean that's just yeah, so that's I guess just a bummer in general. Uh
You always have the
or
human story that you got to follow, and you just got to hope it's
yeah.
good, or at least entertaining enough, either in a really like so bad it's good way and you're
Mhm.
just laughing at it, or it's, like I said, compelling enough that you don't mind um what that
Well,
story is.
yeah, people must have just found the human story then much more compelling than me. I don't know. I'm on an island on this or I'm not, but I just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was fine, but I don't understand the like standpoint that this is the best thing that you've ever seen. Like I've seen a lot of movies with explosions and giant monsters, and this is kind of
Yeah.
one of them, you know. So,
No,
mm,
I can agree, because just in the fact that I don't understand.
mm,
But like I said, for me, I dug this one. Like I said, I went and saw it twice in theaters. Um,
yeah,
like I said, everything worked for me, but I can definitely see where it didn't work for you. So I
yeah.
guess
Well, I
it's
guess
okay.
here's the
I've been
thing.
pumping
Yeah,
myself up for like 3 days, and then you had to come in here
yeah,
with things that made sense.
with actual reasoning.
Yeah,
Um,
damn you.
no, if I don't like something, there's got to be a reason for it, and I try to be able to express it. But I mean, like I said, this isn't a movie I hated. I didn't hate
Yeah.
this movie. I didn't walk out of this movie saying, "What the fuck did I just watch?" No, I had an okay time. I just don't think it was like the best thing I ever seen. I just think it was like it was okay. It was fine. It was just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I might watch it again maybe someday, but I'm not in a rush. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm glad, like I was talking about IP earlier, though. Like, still, I'm glad, like it wasn't just like a cookie cutter. You know, I could tell there was a lot of love put into it and like heart. I didn't always love the execution, but I'm
Yeah.
glad somebody like took a Godzilla movie kind of seriously and made something like that a lot of people are really enjoying. So that
Especially
part's
at a
good.
time where, like I said, Godzilla's starting to get off the rails of craziness and
Right.
zaniness,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like to be able to still have this to kind of go back to is kind of really fun to do that. I can say, watching it a second time, the Godzilla parts do come faster when you kind of know
when they're around the corner.
Yeah, when you know it does move a little bit, because it definitely did feel a little long the first time I saw it, and then
Mhm.
watching it the second time, everything just went, and I was like, oh shit, okay. But I did have moments sitting there the first time where I was like, all right, they were really dragging out that finding the mechanic,
Yes.
and really getting to that final climax. They really dragged that out. It went a lot faster the second time, but I mean, him sitting with that little girl, Akito, and just sitting with her as she's just like, mama, and just like handing pictures and stuff. And I was just like, this is taking forever.
And another thing I will note, just to be transparent in this, I saw this movie when I was very tired.
Mm.
Because it was during the week and I worked that day and it was like 6:30 at night, and usually I fall asleep. I didn't fall asleep, but I was like, I could feel myself like, why am I seeing a movie during the week?
Subtitles are hard when you're tired too.
Yeah. And that's the other
So
thing I wanted to touch on, the family next to me. I said the guy who's on his phone who brought the little kid. How's that kid enjoying this movie? Like, kids don't have great reading comprehension, and if I'm talking about like a 7-year-old, like he was sitting there reading that whole thing, that whole movie. No way. When I'm 7 years old, I was not watching no movie with subtitles. Like they might have brought him in there just to see like the giant lizard and the explosions, but there's no way that kid understood what was going on.
no,
I was confused by that.
yeah, there were a lot of people bringing kids to definitely the first one, because I know some kid like 3-year-old started crying and they had to drag the kid out of the theater. Um, and I was like, well, that kid can't read, so I don't know what
What's
he's there for.
right?
No wonder he's crying, because he's probably bored out of his mind. He just hears a
Yeah,
bunch of noises and doesn't understand what's happening. So yeah, I don't get people. I don't have kids, so I can't just like make any kind of understanding for that. Um, but I don't get it.
I was sitting there during the movie thinking, just not even with kids, like even adults, wondering in my head, like how many people went to that movie not knowing that it was a foreign language film that you had to read the whole time.
I'm
Like
sure a few.
there has to be some. There has to be some that like that didn't read anything. All I know is it's a Godzilla movie, so they go to see it, and then like the beginning of it's in Japanese, and so there's subtitles. You're like, okay, this part's gonna be subtitles because the
Yeah.
sometimes movies do that, go back and forth, but then maybe like 30 minutes in, you'd be like, hey, they're still speaking another language. I'm still reading. What is this?
I can tell you there was a lady with a group of people in front of me. There was a lady that was sitting in front of me. And after
Mm.
about 10 minutes, she got up. I never saw her again.
She left.
So I have a feeling she left. Like, she was there with
Yeah.
the family. So I don't know where she went, or if she was
Yeah.
just sitting in the car, or I don't know what happened, or if she moved seats, but she got up and just left.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And like I
That's
said, I didn't
one.
really think about it, but then I realized after like halfway that the seat in front of me was still empty.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think she came back. I could be wrong, but that happened when I went and saw Pan's Labyrinth in
hmm
theaters, and there was like no one.
Another foreign language film.
Yeah, because that one's all Spanish, and we're sitting in the theater knowing that, and then the movie started and they were speaking Spanish, and there was a whole group of like, I don't know, teenagers or 20 somethings that all was like, fuck this, and they got up and left. You could smell the pot, so they were stoned, so I couldn't imagine that being the
Hot.
type of movie. I mean, that movie stoned could be entertaining, but reading subtitles, no, it doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, can't handle it. No one
So
said there was going to be math. I was unaware there was going to be math.
yes, yes, yes. But yes, Godzilla Minus One. I dug it.
I thought it was all right.
Don thought it was all right. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, another thing came out this week that everyone exploded their brains about, which was finally getting, after a decade, the GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer came out. And 90 seconds, and everybody lost their mind.
Yeah, man. Yeah, came out a day early because of leakers of an 18-year-old leaker I heard who's like in prison
Is that what
for
it
it.
was? Oh,
Yeah.
is he, they already arrested him? And he's,
Oh, he's arrested. Um Stupid. But
yeah.
that always seems to be something like that always happens. Well, with something like that's this hyped and whatever, you got to be like, I'm sure they tried to do everything they could to keep it, but oh well. So it came out a day early, and yeah, the internet did lose their minds. I think part of it is GTA is another series and thing that is just like driven by hype.
Yes.
Now, I'm a fan of it. I like all the GTA games. GTA's been around God, for since we were kids.
Mhm.
I played even the original ones where it was just like an overhead view of just
Yeah,
your
the top
car driving
down.
around, top down view of that was like the first two games, I think, and then maybe three was when they
Yeah,
went. Three was the first one that got kind of open world treatment. Um, but
which
yeah,
was
man,
like insane.
yeah,
Like
that
when they
like
did Grand Theft Auto 3 and they was like a full world, that was like the first open world game. Like we have all these open world games now, it's because of GTA 3.
right,
If that game didn't exist, we wouldn't have those games.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
created a whole world.
yeah. It's like the grandfather of open world gaming. Um, a lot of games owe what they are to Grand Theft Auto. So I was excited to see this, especially because it's going back to Vice City, which is one of my favorites of the
Mm-hmm.
of the series, the
Mm-hmm.
original Vice City with Ray Liotta voicing the guy, and it's like just their take on Miami and that '80s Miami nightlife, which I think is cool to play a video game in.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I know me and you were talking about, and we'll talk about it a little bit, like the trailer kind of made up of what looks like to be just like cutscene stuff, but like people from Rockstar are saying like, no, this is the game like that you're seeing. Like this is what it's gonna exactly what it's gonna look like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, man, I'm pumped for some Grand Theft Auto. I don't know. I played five through once and loved it. So big Rockstar fan, and like we like Red Dead a little, enough. So I'm into it. I don't know. I know you feel maybe sometimes a little differently about GTA and stuff, don't you? But how'd you feel about that trailer? Did you like it?
It was fine.
Yeah.
To answer the first question, Grand Theft Auto came out in 97.
So yeah.
So Grand Theft Auto 1, 97. And now we're in 2023 with Grand Theft Auto 6.
Mm-hmm.
But that's after a couple spin-offs because we through Vice City and San Andreas were both unnumbered.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, Grand Theft Auto is I'm definitely a victim of the hype of Grand Theft Auto. I bought a lot of Grand Theft Auto games. I always try them, I always play them, but I've never gotten anywhere in them. I bought Grand Theft Auto 5 twice. Well, no, the first time, I'll back up a quick second. My PS3 died.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I needed to buy a new one, it was like 2 weeks before Grand Theft Auto 5 was coming out. So I was like, and they had a bundle that I could get where basically I got the game for free. So I bought the
Mm.
GTA bundle, GTA 5 bundle, and just had that came out. So that was like the game that came with my system. And then I
Gotcha.
rebought it on PS4 when they re-released it on PS4, and I picked it up for like $20 at some point and started it again. And then I downloaded it at some point on Game Pass on Xbox and started it again. I played the beginning of GTA 5 at least 3 times and still think about like, do I need to jump back in this game? I liked what I saw. It's just open world sometimes just gets overwhelming for me. Um, and it's hard for me to focus on, there's just too much going on, and definitely depending on what the balance is with like the cops, if I spend my whole time running from the cops when I'm trying to actually do something, then I get annoyed.
Yeah,
um
just don't accidentally run over anybody and they won't be on your ass.
yeah, but I'm not a good video game driver
Yeah.
unless it's Mario Kart. I can't drive for shit.
Yeah.
I like I said, I love the idea, I love what it is. I can probably guarantee that I'll be there for GTA 6 as well. Like I said, part of me wants to play GTA 5 and really go like in it for real. I've been busting out Red Dead and trying to be like, I really want to do Red Dead. I was telling you guys about how I played 81 hours of Red Dead 2 and never touched the single player campaign.
We had quite a little bit of onlining with that one
Yeah,
with our
I did for
posse.
yeah, we 81 hours of Red Dead Online for a game that everybody hated.
All right.
And was killed pretty quick, so we had some fun with that one.
We
um
did.
but yeah, the trailer was fine. This is something we're going to talk about here as we dip into the game awards to wrap up our conversation today. um the It's not even a trend, it just is what it is, but a CGI trailer doesn't do anything for me. I
Mm-hmm.
need to know what the gameplay looks like. Yes, those cutscenes could be in engine and that's what the game looks like, but they still didn't show you someone playing. You still didn't see what I'm going to be playing. Yes, I'm going to be sitting and watching that cutscene, but what am I going to play?
Mm-hmm.
And even if it looks like that, that's fine, but I need to see that because I need to know what I'm going to do. And back in the day, I still remember like Metal Gear Solid 2, Final Fantasy 10, you'd see those big, gorgeous CGI trailers, and that was like blow your mind.
Right.
Anybody can do that now. Cell phone games have fucking CGI trailers. Games that don't even look like what the trailer does get those trailers. Like that's just what it is. The most terrible games can have gorgeous CGI trailers because anybody could do that now, and it's not impressive. And a real recent example of that has been Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Has been with you. I'm not going to
Just,
talk about it.
just remember, we were under an NDA.
I know we signed an NDA to play the alpha. I'm not going to talk about the actual game, but this is before that alpha even came out, which was they just showed CGI trailer, and you're like, yeah, they look cool, but I had hit a point where I was like, I don't want to see any more CGI. I want to see gameplay. Show me what the game looks like. And it took them until they did that Sony State of Play that they actually showed you what the gameplay looked like, and I'm like, okay, now I know if this game is for me or not. And that's just kind of one of those things where I don't get tired of CGI trailers now. I mean, yes, watching the Game Awards and seeing Kratos come out, cool, but you know what that trailer did?
Mm-hmm.
Gave us gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So the hype was there. So GTA 6 trailer looked fine. I can understand the hype, I can understand the love, I can understand all of that, but it didn't change my day. It was 90 seconds of my day and a couple texts with you and now this 5-minute conversation. So
my only comment on the state of trailers and the CGI-ness of it now is like, I think we all just have, you can either thank or blame Hollywood for that, just like the way they make their movie trailers, because now video games have to have trailers like that too. Like us growing up, video games didn't have trailers. We just
no,
bought it. We just bought it based on the Game Pro review or the Game Informer review or
maybe a commercial. Yeah.
the commercial with like real actors in it. Like there was no,
Now you're playing with power.
right, there was no CGI trailers for games when we were coming up. Now all games do this because it's just like they want to have a cinematic like gotcha moment where they make you interested and pull you in because they make it look so epic. But then at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, that's just something that just looks like a cartoon, an animated CGI cartoon that you guys just made for this game. Like you said, like Suicide Squad, like GTA just was like, that's just every game now does that. And so I think you and I at least have decided to just kind of, we got to look past that and be like, until I see something of the game, I'm not like bought in until I see gameplay. And so that's just kind of the place we're in now with that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And speaking of trailers, we got a ton of them coming out of the Game Awards. And this is probably going to be a quick conversation because I didn't watch the Game Awards. I watched the beginning and then I was just like, I'm done watching these trailers. It was just a bunch of game announcements that looked cool, but I don't know what the games are. So I stopped watching. The God of War DLC was really cool. The Final Fantasy DLC was really cool. I watched the Final Fantasy 7 trailer. I mean, there's a couple trailers I watched that were really cool announcements. But
the Hideo Kojima game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is, but
we don't know.
It's another
just
one
him
that's
making
kind of that.
Yeah, just his name being attached to a new game is exciting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I kind of had it on in the background. We were watching football or doing something else or playing video games. I've seen a lot of discourse. A lot of people are like, "What is this now? This isn't a Game Awards. This is just E3. Like, just call it what it is now. It's not. You guys aren't really awarding. I guess you are, but it's just kind of like the side subplot to just commercials for new games that are coming out."
There was a lot of controversy coming out of this year, or really not even controversy, just kind of people being upset with the fact that the Game Awards really didn't have awards. It was like they would just kind of announce winners off to the side real quick and they wouldn't get a chance to talk. The ones that did get a chance to come up the stage got maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds top to try to say anything, and then they just kind of kicked you off the stage. But then they'd bring up, Anthony Mackie to talk for 10 minutes about nothing.
and Simu Liu got a long time to talk too.
Yeah,
But then
and
you get like the winner of an indie game, a company, and you give them like a minute to say something, and then you want to play them off stage.
at the
You know,
Game Awards, like if
right?
you want to be an award show, then you need to be an award show. If you want to be a commercial, then be a commercial and just give us a
Yeah,
show. But don't
right.
like the Game Awards is like turned into just like you said, an E3. It's just turned into like another show that happens in the summer and not what it was, where it was the awards and people got awards and got to talk and you celebrated the developers and you did all of these things. And, Baldur's Gate 3 won game of the year and they got 60 seconds to talk about their game. And you're like, really? You couldn't give them 5 minutes? You couldn't just let them go? This isn't on TV.
Right, right. It's on damn YouTube. Come on.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah,
just, I mean, I don't understand why you're on this crunch to get off the air.
right.
I don't know why you need to keep it at this particular time. I understand that sponsorships and commercials pay for the thing, and that's
Hmm.
fine. But there should be a line where if you want this to be the game awards, then you need to put a little bit more effort into the actual awards.
Yeah,
So
agreed. My two biggest things I take out of, well, three biggest things I guess I just take from this after it's all said and done is one, Baldur's Gate cleaned up like we all kind of expected, just from like the talk of it.
which is
Spider-Man,
crazy.
yeah, Spider-Man 2 nominated for 7 awards, got zero. That's some kind of robbery. I don't know. Doesn't seem right with how good that game was.
Just bad
Uh,
year.
yeah, bad year, I guess, but zero, like, can't give them one thing. Like, you're saying this game is not awarded for anything it accomplished. Like, that game was awesome.
I know, and I was surprised that Alan Wake 2 got as much like love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just came out. I haven't played it. I'm not doubting Remedy and like the company, and I'm not doubting what it is. But it's just was crazy when it's like best narrative, Alan Wake 2, and I'm like Spider-Man's in there.
Right, right. Come on, guys. Uh, so yeah, that was a thing. And then what was the one other thing? Oh yeah, I laughed at like the talk afterwards of what's his name who voiced Kratos, Christopher Judge. Is that his name?
Yeah.
So he won the best voice actor last year
Mm-hmm.
or best voice cast, and so he's presenting the award this year, which went to the lead in Baldur's Gate, of course, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But like he had a little dig in there in his thing. I don't know if you saw it, like because he famously had a long speech last year, like 7 minutes long. So people were giving him a lot of shit for that. That's part of probably why they shortened it this year. Is like we can't
Mm-hmm.
let someone talk for 7 minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
he had a joke in his opening monologue saying like last year I talked longer than the Call of Duty campaign this year. Like basically a dig at fucking Call of Duty
Yeah.
games. Everybody laughed, but like it's come out now that like everyone at Activision and Call of Duty is like mad at him and like talking shit and being like, "Oh, Call of Duty sold this many copies. How many copies did God of War sell? Not this many." Like it's like this funny thing. They're like mad at him for making a joke, uh, but it's funny.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, I missed all of that. Like I said, I put it on after you sent me a text that said Game Awards are on. I said, oh shit. I turned it on. I saw the God of War DLC announcement. I saw the Hideo Kojima
Mm-hmm.
section, and then they went to commercial, and I saw a bunch of Fortnite, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go play video games with my friends. So,
There you. That's what we did.
and that's what we did. So it was one of those things where it was very interesting. I just thought really just wanted to say like no one saw Baldur's Gate 3 coming. Like this was the
No.
year of Zelda. We got a Zelda game this year.
Yeah.
Like that's usually like the shoe in for these
Yeah.
things, and just the fact that the hype or Zelda talk disappeared halfway through this year is just
Well,
crazy.
the talk for every game
Every
disappeared.
game disappeared.
You had a lot of deserving games, and somehow
We
this
had a
little
Final
game,
Fantasy game this year.
yeah,
We had a Zelda game,
we had a Spider-Man game, a Resident Evil game, like none of them.
a
And
Bethesda game because we talked about Starfield getting snubbed.
yeah,
We had a big giant Bethesda RPG that was nowhere to be found.
so now does this? I know we've talked about Baldur's Gate. It's a game neither of us have played yet, but like, does this is this the like the nail in the coffin that says yes, I must play this to see what how this came to be, this phenomenon in video games?
Well, because I knew we were going to have this conversation right
You
now,
bought it.
I didn't buy it. PlayStation Premium, they're giving you a 2-hour demo.
Right.
So which I downloaded, and I played an hour of my 2-hour demo before we went live here. That's what I was doing before you jumped online. So I got through the
Sure.
prologue.
How is it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I can see like it's the opening is epic as hell. Like you're watching and you're like the polish, the epicness that's going on. I was completely, I know we're talking about CGI trailers and that's what it was, but it was next level. It felt special. I was a little, there's a lot. It's a super intimidating game. There's a ton of shit I was trying to figure out. I thought I was never going to get through the prologue. I really thought I was like, I got stuck in this boss battle and I died. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm too weak. I had to read up, looked up a walkthrough and it was like, yeah, just don't fight that dude. I was like, oh, I could just not fight him. Cool. They're like, you're supposed to go over there and hit that button. I'm like, okay, well, let me go do that. And when I did that, and I was like, okay, I need to play more of this game. So I have one more hour of my trial to really see what like Act 1 looks like and what I'm gonna fall into. But I could see it. I could see it.
You see the vision.
I could see what they're doing, and like you can interact with anything and make decisions that affect things that are happening. And there was decisions that I made that looking through this walkthrough, I missed out on a party member because I decided to kill this creature instead of trying to befriend it. And now I don't have this party member. This creature can't be my friend now because I decided it needed to die. So
because you're too aggressive.
well, I was like it was a bad guy. I didn't know I could make it happy. But apparently you can. So I'm not surprised. I'm definitely interested. I've always been interested. We'll see. Like I said, I got another hour of this demo to really see if it's for me because it's just it is in depth, which is kind of can be a hindrance to a lot of people.
Sure. I'm definitely interested. I it's not a matter of if I'm gonna play it, it's a matter of when for me. So we'll see.
And the thing to remember here is it's co-op.
Exactly.
So I mean
that's even more up our alley. Yeah.
We just need to say, hey, we can play this game together and run a campaign together. So I mean, I have a problem.
Stream it.
So maybe we should stream our Baldur's Gate 3 campaign. So just let me know when that happens. And if anybody wants to see it out there, send us some money so we could buy the game.
I thought you were gonna say like subscribe, like check out our YouTube. No, you said send us some money.
Yeah, I was getting there. But I was getting there.
Sure you were.
Yeah. But like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss that. So when we go live on YouTube over at Raised A Geek on YouTube, and we decide to stream at some point, like we keep talking about doing, you won't miss it. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all of those things. Helps out the show and helps us get some money so we could buy more stuff and be able to provide new content and fun for all of you out there. So thank you for checking out this episode of Godzilla Minus One. I forgot that was also one of our cue lines to finish off the show, and I said it early.
Whoops.
But yeah, you got any final thoughts on Godzilla, Game Awards, trailers?
Nah, man. It was a fun week. Fun week for geek stuff. However you want to slice it up. Love it, like it. It's still just give me the content. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're here for. So let's do it.
I like it. Well, we'll be back next week, probably with some Christmas. We want to head back down to Christmas rabbit hole. So we were planning on heading that way. We're going to talk about it as soon as we finish up. So I think that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raised A Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
And thanks for checking out the show,
where geek is all we speak.